Hi everyone, this is Dr. Outlay with Color Coded, and in this video I'll show you how to use a Windows install USB to install Windows onto a blank computer. I should warn you that I have my baby on my chest, and I also have cats running around in the background, so you will just ignore any strange sounds that you hear in the background, okay? Well, first we are looking at a Lenovo T450 ThinkPad, and I'm going to turn it on for you just so that you can see when you have a completely blank computer like this how it's going to look when we start it up. So we just saw the splash screen, and now that the splash screen has gone by, there is no operating system installed here. So what you're going to see in just a moment is just the blank BIOS menu that'll come up. So it just told us that there was a media test failure because it couldn't find where to start. And now here is the boot menu, and it's asking us how it should boot up the computer, from the boot manager or from the hard drive or from the network, because it didn't find an operating system. This is normal, but if you get to this point, we need to go back and restart the computer so that we can tell it that we want it to start from the USB drive that we're going to use. Here is the USB. This USB has already been prepared with an installable version of Windows 10 Media, and so I'm going to pause this video so that I can insert the USB into the computer's USB drive, and then we're going to restart and tell it to start from the USB. Okay, I'm back, and I've got the USB drive inserted into the computer now. The computer is turned off, and we want the computer to be turned off before we begin. So I am now going to turn this computer on. We'll wait for it to boot up. Here we go. We're going to interrupt normal startup by pressing enter. You saw that message pop up. It only stays there for a few seconds, and we've got to hurry up and do something. And then this interrupt menu, as you can see, it's counting down very quickly. We better do something. I'm going to press F12 to choose a temporary startup device. So if you missed that, just back up and pause it. Now we have the boot menu again. It's asking us, what do we want to use to start up? And this time we have this generic flash disk as an option. That's our USB drive that we've got in the computer. I'm going to press the down arrow and select that generic flash disk. Now, sometimes this will work and sometimes it won't. And in our case, we have an error. So this is telling us it's a legacy boot of UEFI media without going into all the technical aspects of what that means. Basically, it's telling us that we have to go into the BIOS and set the computer up to enable it to read the type of USB install media that we've created. How do we do that? Well, we will start by doing a hard shutdown by holding down the power button. We're going to shut down the computer. We're going to start it up again. And this time when we press enter, we're going to choose a different option. I'm turning the computer back on. Remember, we've got to hit enter fast before that message disappears. And this time I'm going to press F1 to go into the BIOS utility. Now we're in the BIOS for the ThinkPad setup, and there are a few different things that we want to check. We only have to do this one time. So once we do this, we should be able to install a USB and reboot, and it works just fine. First, we're going to look at this main setting here that says UEFI Secure Boot. It shows us as off, which is what we want. If it had shown on, then we would go pressing the right arrow key over to security, and then we'd press the down arrow key until we see secure boot and press enter. And if it showed on that first screen, this would show secure boot as enabled. If it was enabled, we would press enter and change it to disabled. In our case, it's already disabled, so we'll press escape and go back to the previous screen. Now let's go where we really want to go, which is to startup. And we're going to change a couple different things. One is boot, which is already selected. We'll press enter. Let's change the boot priority order. In this case, you see our option for a generic flash disk that's showing up because we have the USB installed. If you were here and you did not see that option, it probably means that you forgot to insert the USB, and you can still move up. It would just say USB HDD and it would not say generic flash disk. So this is still the option that you want. We have it selected because we use the down arrow to select it. And now we're going to use the plus key so that we can move it up and make it boot priority 1. So I'm holding down the shift button so that I can press plus, and I'll keep pressing plus until USB HDD generic flash disk moves up to the first option. Now I'm going to press escape, and I'm going to this section that says UEFI legacy boot. Remember, we got that message that said this was not able to boot up in legacy mode. Right now, the BIOS is set up so that it can do both, but it says legacy first. And our UEFI formatted USB doesn't match that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the down arrow to select legacy first, press enter, and then I'm going to change it to UEFI first and press enter. I'm going to go back up to boot, make sure that my selection there is still there. Escape, make sure that my UEFI change is still there. We don't have to do this, I'm just checking it to be sure. And now I'm going to press F10 to save and exit. Save configuration changes and exit now. Press enter to choose yes. And now all the changes will save. Now let's see when it starts back up if it goes ahead and selects what's on our USB. If it doesn't, we'll just do a hard shutdown. But hey, it did. What we see now is Windows, the install media is starting up. At this point, I'm going to start cutting things out in the video and pausing and starting again, because the one real drawback I think to Windows installation is that there are lots of points where we wait for something to happen. We'll choose a few options, then we wait. Then we choose a few more options, and then we wait. And sometimes those are long waits. All right. We are now at the initial install screen for Windows. We don't have to change anything here. The language is English, time and currency is English, keyboard or input method is US. Obviously, if you were changing those, you would choose to drop down from the drop down options. In our case, we're just going to select next. Using this Lenovo Thinkpad, the easiest way to select our options is by tapping the touchpad. With one finger for a left click, 2 fingers for a right click. Here we're at Windows and we're going to choose Install Now. Setup is starting and we wait. There are lots of different options for the operating system to install. In our case, we're going to install Windows 10 Pro. I'm selecting Windows 10 Pro from the list and then clicking Next. Here are a few sentences describing license terms. I will check the box to accept the license terms and click Next. Next is asking which type of installation we want, to upgrade or to do a custom Windows install. We are going to go with the custom install. And now we're looking at drives. In our case, we're lucky. We're starting out with just one drive, and that's the drive that we're going to use. If there were multiple drives shown on this screen, we would click the drive and click delete. It would activate, and then we would click and click delete, and we would keep doing that until we wound up with one drive of unallocated space. In this case, we're already there, and we'll click Next. And now this is where we're going to have a long wait, and I'm gonna skip past it. We're copying Windows files. Getting files ready for installation is the one where the wait is long before it goes on to installing features and updates and finishing up. I'm not gonna keep this video running. I'm hitting stop now to skip past it, and I'll come back once we've gotten past this point. All right, we are finishing up this installation portion at step 2, and now Windows is getting ready to restart. We'll wait for it to restart. We do not need to do anything at this step, so don't worry about trying to hurry up and press enter. The installation is continuing, and as you can see, it went right back into our Windows screen, and now it's going to give us some additional stuff to do. Still waiting, and we're back. We're gonna start with region, and many of these are going to be, I think, pretty obvious given where we are right now, but some of them won't be, so I'll just go ahead and walk us through them. Starting with the region to United States, that is what we want. We'll click yes. And the right keyboard layout for us is US keyboard layout. We're gonna click yes. We do not want to add a second keyboard layout, so we're going to skip that. And we will connect to a network. We don't have to connect to a network right now. In this case, we are going to connect to a network. I'm going to pause it for just a moment, connect to a network, and come back, because this is going to vary depending on where we are. So no sense in you sitting here watching me pick networks and connect to them. Once you've connected to a network and click next, you're going to get this message. We have some important setup to do, and guess what we're going to do? We're going to wait. It may be fast or it may be slow, and I found it is very hard to predict how long it's gonna take, so just relax. Next, we'll say whether we're going to set up for personal use or set up for an organization. The steps are going to be pretty similar once we choose one. Because of the way that we're setting these up, I'm going to go ahead with set up for personal use, since that's what we're doing in most of our Build a Computer programs. Click on set up for personal use and then click next. Here, where it says sign in with Microsoft, if the person that you're setting this up for has a Microsoft account and you know that, then you can enter their email for their Microsoft account. We never do that in our Build a Computer programs. Instead, we go over here to the bottom left and we choose offline account. Microsoft doesn't want us to choose offline accounts. They want us to create Microsoft accounts, but we don't want to create Microsoft accounts. And despite the fact that we have this discouraging message that says we're choosing a limited experience, we're still going to click on that and choose the limited experience. This just means that we are sure that yes, we want an offline account. Now, after we've clicked limited experience, next, this question, who's going to use this PC, basically just means what's your username. I'm going to enter color-coded as a username and make this a general color-coded computer and click next. You can create a password. However, in our Build a Computer programs, I discourage creating a password at this time because I don't want Windows to make me go through additional steps to choose security questions and stuff like that. We can always go back later once we finish the entire install, and then we can create a password. You could always change a password in the future too. So for now, what I'm gonna do is not enter anything and just click next so I can go right past this point. That does mean until you go back to choose a password, if you want to do so, you're going to just log right in directly to the computer by choosing the username. Additional screens are going to be a matter of personal preference. In this case, I'll give you the defaults that we typically enter in our Build a Computer program setup. Do more across devices with activity history just enables you to share your activity. We're going to choose no. Getting help from your digital assistant, who is Cortana, is kind of the equivalent of Siri if you're using an iPhone or iOS device. I'm going to go ahead and accept Cortana. Declining Cortana wouldn't be a big deal either. It's possible to continue on. You just won't have her voice talking to you. Privacy settings for the device, there are a lot of them, and they are a matter of personal preference. We just go ahead and accept everything that is selected here by default. And here we go again. We are waiting while the install continues and gets things ready. I'm gonna stop again until it's time for us to do something. All right, guess what, y'all? We have Windows installed. When we get here, we're at the Welcome to Windows screen, but there are gonna be a few things that we wanna make note of. One is there's gonna be a message that pops up here saying that there is a restart required. That's because we have a few different devices that are a part of the computer, and we need to install the software that makes those devices run properly with the restart. We're not gonna do that restart just yet though. There's one other area that we want to go to, and here in the search bar, we are going to type in activate, because we want to go ahead and make sure that Windows is activated. Notice I only typed in ACT. I only type in enough letters to get the option that I want to pop up, as I need to get what I want, which is activation settings. That's come up. I'm gonna click open. Currently, Windows is not activated because we didn't activate it. And there are two ways that we can activate Windows. If we have a product key and we know exactly what the product key is, we'd click the link here to change the product key. But if we don't have the product key, or even if we do have one, but we're not sure whether we need to use it, we can also see first if we can reactivate Windows based on the product key that's already embedded in this system from the original manufacturer equipment or install. And the way we do that is by clicking on Troubleshoot. We'll get this Windows activation pop up. And notice that the computer is still saying, when are you gonna restart this thing? But I see you restart, I'm just not ready to do it yet. And it says troubleshooting has completed and we found a digital license for Windows 10 Pro. That means all we have to do is click activate Windows and we can go ahead and activate it for full access to all of the Windows features. If this had come back and told us that it could not find a digital license, that's when we would close out, come back here to change product key, and we'd have to put in a product key on our own. If we didn't already have one, we would have to purchase one or otherwise acquire the product key. Maybe your organization provides product keys, whatever the source is. But lucky us, troubleshooting found a digital license. We're going to click activate Windows, and now we have activated the copy of Windows. So watch what happens here. We have that message that was there before saying it's not activated and they can't activate it. And if we give it just a couple seconds, it's going to update and it's going to tell us that Windows is activated. There it is. Windows is activated with a digital license. We don't want to forget this step because over time it'll start popping up messages to say that it's not activated, and some features are actually disabled if the copy of Windows isn't activated. For all intents and purposes, this install is completed. There's one other area that I can point out to you to look at. That is Windows Update. You're gonna see here, it's saying that we're missing some of the things that we need in this install. We already know that because we've already been told that we need to restart. And rather than check for updates right now, I'm going to close this out. I'm gonna close this browser out too. And I'm going to go ahead and restart. You would eventually want to go back into Windows Update again and check for updates and just make sure that you have all the latest updates. For now, I'm gonna go into Power. I'm going to restart. And now I'm going to, in this video, we've used our USB, we have changed the BIOS so that it would recognize the USB, and we've gone through a complete Windows installation on a computer that previously had no operating system installed. Oh, by the way, we don't need this USB anymore either, so we could remove this. We actually could have removed this a long time ago as soon as the install was complete and the computer restarted. So here it is. This is what performed the magic for us. And here is our complete Windows installation.